Jared mentioned I'm trying to get this person to change behavior. One of the most uphill battles ever, right? 5 things we got to go through. So stage 1 of changing behavior is to go from an unconscious state to a conscious state. Now, to simplify that, what we are doing in stage 1 is the identifying the behavior. And we want to be really sort of specific with this, right? Spontaneous child in these scenarios, and these are the results that are happening. These are the sort of the trigger events. So we're dealing with this one layer of the spontaneous child, right? Which is, let me smile at you. Let me look like, okay, thanks so much for the feedback, and gotcha, right? I don't think people have that much malice or intention behind that. I don't think they're smile-effing you from a vicious way, but people are uncomfortable and they want to, by definition, mask. That is the truest nature of the spontaneous child, which is when we talk about the term masking, it's the spontaneous child that we usually mask with, right? When we're uncomfortable, we smile. When we have something that's maybe a little awkward or difficult to say, we kind of smile. When someone's sort of offensive and rude, we kind of smile. And we do this from a place of deflection. The other side of it is if we sort of keep going through the layers of the spontaneous child, maybe gets distracted really easily, right? Really quick to start, but not so good to sustain and be consistent. Gets bored with sort of the mundane stuff. So when it's new and it's shiny and it's exciting, I'm pumped, and then, I gotta... And if we're not careful, the spontaneous child contributes to us sometimes just being that nurturing parent. Okay, great. I'm glad you got it. Keep going. Let me know if you need any help. Checking in, right? So really identifying this behavior becomes super important. And this is where we need to be clear. Like when we're communicating, we can't be dropping hints like, the thing, right? It's uncomfortable. So the more clear, the more direct, the more assertive you are with this is the behavior we're looking to do. Stage 2 of changing behavior is reflection. This is an individual exercise, right? So things that they can do here. So first, we can reflect. We can sort of do a little bit of a journaling exercise now, where we can sort of write down, okay, when am I being triggered, right? What was that moment that I ended up sort of flipping back? What was my current sort of climate, circumstance, environment, right? Really taking time to reflect where and why this stuff happens. Step 3 to changing someone's behavior or your own is now moving into what we call insight, which very simply put is the what to do. All right, so I know what I got to do from a behavior standpoint or a communication standpoint or an action standpoint is do this. And same type of thing. We want to go through some exercises here. I think Google's a really good, calendar is a really good tool for helping us sort of practice what to do, right? Utilizing some of the tools. A lot of this is their own ability to sit down, to journal, to write. This is also where in reflection, maybe we want to get that sort of feedback loop happening, which when we get into the performance coaching piece today, that's part of it. Like, how do we give this person feedback directly, clearly, consistently? Because it's unfair. I mean, we said this kind of earlier where we were talking about the 20-year veteran that maybe isn't performing. They've been promoted through the company. Now you're kind of at a stage going, we should let them go, but the cost to let them go is super, super high. I think it was you, Donald, that said, the question we really got to ask is, has this person ever been given feedback over the 20 years? And it's quite common for people to say, well, kind of. That's the problem, right? With that ulterior loop, we're not getting clear feedback, right? So we're having the conversation. We're going to sit down and we say, all right, we've identified the fact that this is a behavior that needs to be changed, which in simply put, this person is inconsistent with their deliverables, okay? Motivated to take things on, but isn't delivering. So we identify the behavior. So we sit down, we have the conversation and say, look, can I write a passage? Look, can I share some sort of observations and feedback with you on where I think you're kind of going well and maybe things we need to improve, right? We'll do some of that information-seeking questions. Hey, would you agree with this? Has this affected you in the past? How have you handled it? What is your plan moving forward? May I make a suggestion? So we get into this whole conversation, okay? Now in a place of reflection, this is where the feedback might be, where we're in that conversation as well, which is like, let's talk a little bit about maybe where these things are happening. So what do you think kind of causes that? Like, where do you get tripped up? Talk to me a little bit about, so it's these reflective questions, we might sort of simply put it, which get the person to consider the past. When is this happening? What's contributing to this? Now, again, this now isn't, all right, now we move to stage 3 and now we fix the behavior. This is like an ongoing process, right? The feedback here is important, but also the self-assessment. So not to shamelessly promote, but the MRPI assessment, right? Let's say this person did it, and we can sit down and go, okay, let's look at the withdrawn child, and let's look at how the difference between what you describe or see in yourself versus what other people are receiving. Maybe there's a performance feedback, right? Where the person gets this feedback around sort of where it's not working. Through this stage in this conversation, now we want to start to think about the what to do, right? So let's say back to Jacob, similar, right? We've identified the behavior, the individual's just, their time management sucks, right? They're disorganized. So there's a behavioral piece there, but this might be simply as trying to get them to put better practices of how they're creating what we might call flow time, flow state, which is I know every Monday between 8 to 10 a.m., like my focus is working on this stuff, which sets up my week. And then from this time to this time, so instead of me scheduling myself every hour on the hour for different activities, I'm creating time and space to focus on one activity. That's when I find people are having difficulty with time management, is because we are jumping to 19 different things throughout the week or throughout the day. We're holding it all up and we're getting it all done. And some of us are good at that. Almost it's like this chaotic world that you're living in, right? But like Emily's the eye of the storm. Everything's right, but she's centered in that space. I'm a little bit like that, but I could float too far to the right where now I'm just disorganized and not effective. And here's a really good example of shifting that behavior in the moment, but it's these stages that we naturally go through, right? Ooh, I'm aware. Oh, why am I feeling this way? The F is going on. I got so much on my plate. I'm thinking about 1,000,001 things. I want to kill this candidate right now. Marilyn doesn't need me. Jumping down on critical parent approach right now. All right, let me go the insight, the what to do. Let me go use a stop. Let me go get myself to the adult. Let me think about what that objective is. And now stage 4 is where we see that mindset shift, where all of a sudden Paul now goes, okay, I'm a little more in the headspace now to effectively go have this conversation. And I think for me, I went through the swing, so I'll share it with you and pay attention to it. In my exercise to not be so much of a critical parent, I swung too far and became this sort of more passive, and that was problematic as well, right? So I'm so worried about I don't want to hammer this person too hard, and then I end up in the ulterior transaction, which is even worse. So there's like that pendulum swing. We always kind of want to make sure we're not swinging too far to the opposite behavior sometimes. So anyway, back to the insight stage, these are where the strategies and the tools get executed. Remember, the behavior change, we are actioning things before the actual shift of behavior. In other words, it's me consciously using this stuff before it becomes natural. And here's the number, ladies and gentlemen. 66 days to change behavior. You need to do this and practice this for 66 days. So technically it's on the 67th day that we introduce a new behavior. Now, you've heard 10 days, right? 10 days to start the habits. Like smoking. If you could just quit for 10 days, some of you are ex-smokers, it was the 10-day mark where you're like, okay, I could kind of keep this going, right? But up until then, it was really hard. 66 days, you really didn't have that craving. So this is what we're trying to do if we're going to really think about it. And one of the things we're going to get into is something called the 30-60-90 today. You've seen this corporately, like we've been using it forever. But we're going to talk about it like, what are we going to action from a behavior and a communication standpoint over the first 30, 60, and 90 days. So it's the same tool that you could use there. Okay, stage 4. We call this the mindset shift. This is where our brains now catch up to the motivational part. We're like, okay, I'm more optimistic about it. I'm more excited. It's not such a tough sort of mountain to climb. This is where, when we think about the learning curve, this is where we're a little bit at that sort of conscious competence stage. Okay, I know what to do, but I got to be conscious about doing it. And I got to practice it. But now it's not so heavy, or there's not this weight to action it. And then 5 is the actual sustained behavior, which now we're at day 66, 67. We're managing it by following the tools and the strategies. I live and die by my schedule. I put everything in there. Read a book for 15 minutes. Send this email. When I don't, I am chaotic. I'm all over the map. And what I try to do with my schedule is something called flow state, which is I know this day I'm focusing on this. And this guy's name's Evan Carmichael, big YouTube guy, teaches you how to do YouTube and stuff. But he's gotten his schedule to the point that Mondays are his ops days. Tuesdays are like his interview public facing days. So that's where he'll do interviews and he'll do podcasts and do. Wednesdays are like his content development days. And it's each day is designed. I can't get my schedule to that. I don't know a lot of people that can, specifically in an entrepreneurial environment. But how cool would it be that if you just knew on Mondays, this is the only work you focused on?